Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. I'm TCaptainX. Today is the Season 5 Reloaded update. We're going to cover the updated meta and the updated best loadouts here. So first, I want to cover what changed in this update as far as weapon balancing. We did get two new weapons. We have a spear, which is a melee weapon, which from what I've seen, seems like it is pretty good actually in Warzone. And then there's a new launcher, which is going to be kind of like a combat bow. It is not very good from what I've seen and what I've used with it. So this one, I would not waste your time leveling up. All right, we had a lot of weapon balance changes. So first with the ARs, I'm gonna go through this as quickly as possible. Bal-27 range buff, DG56 a lower torso damage buff, FR556 got a damage range buff in a arm and hand damage buff, Holger 556 damage range buff, MCW got several range buffs. STG 44 did get a damage nerf. This is going to end up making the time to kill a little bit slower for the STG, which we will talk about here later. M16 conversion kit range buff. The BASB battle rifle got a leg and foot damage buff. MTZ72 conversion kit damage range buff. SOA subverter damage range buff. SMGs here, we've got the Rival 9 got a damage range buff. The Static, which was the best overall SMG kind of previously, got several nerfs here. So a lot of changes to its range, nerfs to its range. Also got a decrease in both its headshot damage and leg and foot multiplier damages, which is going to also change its time to kill here. The Striker got a damage range buff, several damage range buffs there. Lockman Shroud conversion kit got a damage range buff. LMGs, the Pulemyot 762 got a very nice buff. Neck, lower torso, and hand damage buffs. A increase in its handling, so faster handling, sprint to fire, and aim down sight speed. And then most importantly, a faster rate of fire, which is going to greatly make that time to kill much faster. RPK conversion kit got several changes here, but nothing really affecting the time to kill or the damage ranges. DM56 marksman rifle got a damage range buff. MCW 6.8 got a increased rate of fire. So again, that's going to make that time to kill much faster. And then also a stomach damage multiplier buff. And then a bunch of the pistols got reworked for their akimbo. Basically, they're buffing like all of the akimbo spread. So akimbo will be a little bit better to use for basically all of these pistols here. All right, now we're going to actually look and kind of compare stats and explain what are the best guns right now. So we're going to start with the long range meta here. We're on our website, ggs.ai. I would highly encourage you guys to check out this website yourself. This is an AI algorithm website we use that takes a bunch of loadouts and basically ranks them. So our website is saying the STG is still meta currently, but also the Taq Eradicator and Bal-27 are also sneaking into the meta. Several guns here in A tier. The only thing that I slightly disagree with is its ranking are the Pulemyot pretty low. And I think the reason is just because its mobility is so bad, it's penalizing it. But I've added a few guns here. So if you hit the drop down here, you can hit compare details. And I've added a few guns in here. And you're going to see the Pulemyot in green actually has a phenomenal TTK now after its buff. It is the fastest TTK of these guns up to about 40 meters or so. And at long range is quite good as well. This gun has very low recoil also. STG in the blue line, you're going to see, so it used to be a 0.6 TTK. It is now a 0.7. It takes an extra shot to kill. STG is still going to be very, very dominant, but not quite as broken. Taq Eradicator also is another one here that looks very, very good. I'm going to kind of compare some of these just to the STG as kind of like for sake here. The Taq Eradicator, not as good TTK at closer ranges, but beyond anything beyond 50 meters, it basically has no damage range drop off. So Taq Eradicator big map is a phenomenal option. Very low recoil, great bullet velocity. The Bal-27 in purple also is phenomenal here. I will say this TTK is a bit of an estimation because the fire rate changes on this gun. So the first 4 shots are a little bit slower, but have very low recoil. And then the fire rate speeds up after that. So it's a little hard to calculate this, but the Bal-27 absolutely is a meta contender. And in some cases might be better for the STG because it has such good bullet velocity as well. Few other guns, MTZ 556, it's good, great gun. But I think not quite as good as like an STG or a Bal. SVA 545 on that burst mode, no recoil, but the TTKs aren't great. There's other guns we could talk about here. The Holger 556, SOA Subverter, MCW is also another decent one, but these are kind of my top ones. I think in reality, these 4 are going to be kind of my top 4 long range though. So as a quick summary here to summarize the long range meta, STG, especially on Resurgence, is probably going to be like your #1 do-it-all. I would guess that this will probably be still the top ranked gun for Rebirth. Taq Eradicator on big map, I think is probably the best big map gun in my opinion, because it has such good bullet velocity and good TTKs at long range. Remember, this gun does have that erratic fire rate though, where the fire rate slows down over time though. So it's a little bit tricky to use if you stay on the trigger. Bal-27 also, I think, is going to be, it can be great on small map or big map. If you have the recoil control for it, I think could be better than the STG in some senses. And then the Pulemyot, if you don't care about how big and heavy and slow it is, from just a pure TTK standpoint, this thing hits like a freaking truck, and it's got that huge magazine, but you have the downside of it also takes 1.5 years to reload. All right, now let's talk close range meta. So I've switched our filter over to close range here. We have a lot of meta options here, according to our website here, and I would agree with this. The static is still actually ranking as #1, although I think the close range meta is kind of a toss up right now. I think it's incredibly close. WSP9 Striker MCW conversion kit. This is the FJX horse with the conversion kit that's ranking meta. I think this one might be a little bit overrated. I think this is a good sniper support, but I wouldn't personally rate it meta. Then we've got the Vel, which I think is, the Vel is tricky because of its combination TTK. It can be really good or really bad depending on where you hit your shots. So our percentages rank it as really good, but if you hit low damage areas, it can all of a sudden be bad. So this is a good gun, but maybe not quite meta. And then the Superi is also sneaking in there as meta. I got a few other A tier options here as well. When we look at the time to kill charts here, you're gonna see the static in the blue line has fallen off a lot. It used to be way down here at like 0.584. It's now way up here at 0.657 because the combination time to kill is going to take an extra shot. Because of that headshot multiplier nerf and also the nerf to the leg damage area, it's much harder for you to get that faster time to kill. You still can, it's just a lot harder to do. So a very high skilled player who's hitting like only chest, neck, and headshots might still prefer the static, but for more average level players, you might not like the static quite as much anymore. The WSP9 is phenomenal, but remember that it has that open bolt delay. So if I switch this to expected TTK, which filters in the 50-second open bolt delay, which means when you first pull that trigger, it takes 50 seconds until that gun starts to shoot. Then all of a sudden the WSP9 doesn't look nearly as good. You're going to see the MCW as a great TTK and very good range, but remember that the handling is not quite as good on it because it's an AR, and also that the damage magazine size is pretty low. And then the Superi is kind of, I honestly think the Superi might be kind of back on top overall. And then also the Striker. The close range meta is so wide open right now. I think it's really going to be any of these 5 you can make a case for right now. I did want to show the damage per mag here. So one of the big weaknesses of the MCW, yes, it has a great TTK, but its damage per mag is very, very low. Versus guns like the Striker and the WSP9 have amazing damage per mag. So if you're someone that you like to split and try to play like solo trio, solo quads, Striker and WSP9 are amazing options. There's a lot more stats that we can look at here. I'd encourage you guys to check out this website for yourself. If I were to summarize things here, it's tough. I think the static and Superi you can go either way with. Both of these guns have some great mobility, but the static's gonna have much better handling, which I think is why our algorithm is ranking it so high. WSP9 Striker really comes down to personal preference. I would say I like the Striker more. I think it's a smoother shooting gun. And at, for mid-range, it has some amazing TTKs, and it has more of like a sniper support. The MCW is phenomenal. All right, so let's actually go through these loadouts here. So starting with what I'm gonna rank at number 5 is going to be a sniper loadout, because the Kar98 is still a fantastic option. It is still a one-shot headshot up to that first damage range of about 70-ish meters. The build really has not changed. Sonic suppressor, the long barrel, high grain, whichever optic you prefer, SPX or that range collar, totally up to you in terms of the optic. Fifth attachment, a little bit more of a wild card, but I like the target sling a lot because this one's gonna help our ADS here. You could go no stock, but then it gets a little wobbly here, and overall, this is my favorite build for the sniper. As a really good sniper support, the MCW conversion kit is going to be a great one with that Jack Raven kit that basically turns it into an SMG. Definitely need the 40 round mag here. With some of these new attachments like the Quartermaster suppressor, which is going to give you tons of recoil control, but also keep you suppressed. Then the paracord grip is another kind of must-have attachment now because it gives us lots of good mobility and sprintifire increase, which we really need on the MCW, but also a buff to recoil. It has no penalties. So make sure you guys are unlocking these two attachments if you have not already. To do that, if you don't have these, you have to scroll and find them. They're usually going to be at the very end of your attachments here in the muzzle and underbarrel. Select it, and then you have to do daily challenges to unlock these. And then finally, that rear grip is also going to help our sprintifire time quite a bit because that's very important on this gun. If you don't like the iron sights on this, I'd probably say take off that rear grip and put on an optic for it, but just know then your handling is not going to be quite as good. At our number 4 loadout, we have got that Pulemyot, which got that huge buff here. So this is not the conversion kit. So the conversion kit did not get buffed in this update. This is the base Pulemyot 762. So again, that new Quartermaster suppressor, great attachment for all of your long range guns. Pyro heavy barrel to add some range here. A Bruin heavy support for recoil control and that firing aim stability. Jack glassless optic, or you could also go Choreo, but I like that Jack glassless for that extra firing aim stability that it provides. Fifth attachment, a little bit more of a wild card here. I like this rear grip because it's going to give us gun kick control and firing aim stability. It hurts our aiming idle sway, but that's generally not as important as our firing aim stability is. Another one is this knot grip because that helps our ADS as well. So you could do that as well, especially if you want to try to use this one on Resurgence. Just remember, this thing is very slow when it comes to handling. Probably not the best Resurgence gun, although you absolutely still can use it. But on big map, very, very good option. And then for an SMG, we've got the WSP9, which is going to be a great gun, kind of all around. Definitely could compete for one of the top SMGs right now. There's a million different ways to run this one. This build is going to give us some very good mobility, but still quite low recoil because of that Quartermaster suppressor. So his short light barrel for the mobility, the new Jack slash underbarrel. This is an aftermarket part that you unlock that gives you a lot of nice boost to our movement speed here. You could instead also go paracord grip though for a little bit smoother recoil and even better handling though if you wanted to. 40 round mag is probably plenty, but you could go 50 if you want for a little bit more of a movement penalty if you're okay with that. And then most people are going to prefer to run an optic on this. Iron sights are not bad though. If you don't mind the iron sights here, you could definitely go with something like the WSP Classics factory stock though for even better recoil control. Coming in at number 3, we've got the Taq Eradicator. If you're playing big map, this thing is absolutely amazing here. Depends how we build this based on if we want to use iron sights or not. So if we're going to go iron sight build here, we can get away with running high velocity. Now, you do not want to run high grain on this because this gun essentially has no damage range drop off the way the TTK works. So make sure you run high velocity because this damage range nerf, it basically doesn't matter for this gun. This gives you insanely good bullet velocity, 1300, which is just bonkers fast compared to other guns here. After that, Quartermaster paracord grip. You could go Bruin heavy if you wanted though, but I don't think you really need to. Conquer long barrel, and then the Tacvert core stock. If you don't want to use the iron sights though, probably just take off high velocity, throw on a Jack glassless, and you're still going to have insanely good bullet velocity even without the high velocity. And then the Striker, this is the regular Striker, not the Striker 9 here. This is gonna be a movement build. I actually ran this today and I love this thing. This might be my new favorite SMG going into Season 5 Reloaded here, and you could absolutely argue it as being the overall best here. This is a no stock build, but I promise you, between the Quartermaster and the paracord, the recoil is not bad at all. 48 round, you really do not need the 60. The 60 is way more than enough ammo. And then the Striker stubby short barrel for even better movement. Now, this is a special blueprint that actually gives you a like cleaner iron sight here. So if you don't have that and you don't like the regular iron sights, probably just take off the barrel and then throw on an optic, Jack glasses, or even just whatever 1X, and you're good to go. Now, if you want a Striker that could be more of like a sniper support or kind of just a do-it-all type build, this build here will be very low recoil. So we're going to go Quartermaster paracord, the Recon long barrel 48, and then the Priority tactical stock here. Again, if you don't like those iron sights, I'd probably say take off the stock or the barrel for an optic, depending on which way you want to go there. All right, coming in at number 2, we've got the Bal-27. Again, this could easily be the #1 best AR right now. It kind of just depends on your field preference between STG, Bal, Taq, etc. here. This is another build that if you're okay with the iron sight and running high velocity, you're going to get some phenomenal bullet velocity here. Iron sights are very nice on this gun, I would say overall. They're very simple and very clean here. 2 options if you don't like the iron sights. If you have good recoil control, you could definitely take the stock off and run the Jack glassless, or you just take off high velocity and then run the Jack glassless. The bullet velocity is not going to be quite as good, 884. But for resurgence, that's probably more than plenty enough here. So great build. Quartermaster, crown barrel, 60, and then that ardent tech stock. And then we've got the static. Again, this could be #1, #3. It just kind of depends on where you rank it here. This is more of a mobility build that is going to feature that Jack slash again. Quartermaster suppressor, the auger light barrel, and then the spray light stock. This is an SMG that I do tend to run the Jack glasses on and not just any other regular 1X because this gun has a lot of like wobble when you shoot it. So the firing aim stability is very nice to have with this one. The iron sights are not bad at all though. So you absolutely could go iron sights here and you could add any of these lasers. You could add maybe like overpressured for extra target flinch, which makes your enemy's screen shake more when you shoot. You can also make this much lower recoil by switching to the paracord grip and then the FSS Guardian stock. This kind of becomes like a hybrid low recoil and or sniper support build if you wanted to. And then coming in at our #1 ranked loadout here, again, the gap is much smaller. This is not like the clear cut, yep, this is hands down the best loadout in the game. But if you force me to pick right now, this is what I'm going to go with. So still the STG, same loadout that we've been using basically all season, quartermaster suppressor. For the barrel, you do have 2 options. For most people, the Heinrichter long barrel is going to be best because it's going to give us a huge buff to our range and bullet velocity, gives us amazing bullet velocity. You could go Bruin heavy barrel instead though. This does help our recoil a decent bit, but not nearly as much bullet velocity and range. And this one hurts our handling a lot. Big 11% penalty to our ADS, whereas the Heinrichter, no penalty. So I like the Heinrichter, but if you want more recoil, go with the Bruin heavy here. One other option I will say, if you're a very high skilled player, and especially if you're playing Resurgence, try taking off the stock and adding something like high grain here. Definitely a bit more bouncy recoil, but man, the bullet velocity and range on this thing absolutely is just nutty. And then somehow the Superi has made it back to what maybe is the best SMG overall. Again, the race is extremely tight. I am not saying this is hands down the clear-cut best, but this is a newer build with the Quartermaster, Paracord, High Grain to give us a little bit more range because it did catch a range nerf somewhat recently, 40 round, and then the Rescue stock here. This build's got very good movement speed. Sprintifire is so-so. If that is, a little bit too much for you, you absolutely could swap here. The Quartermaster does hurt it a good bit. So you could go back to like the Zem if you wanted to get a little bit better Sprintifire. And then also, if you enjoy strafe builds that you can aim walk with very fast, this is a personal favorite of mine. Combine this with the Stalker perk, and the aim walking speed on this is just bonkers. Almost 5 meters per second, which is like close to sprint speed of some guns. So it is just a really, really fun gun to use, especially paired with Stalker. And then before we wrap up here to cover my tacticals and lethals, I am a huge fan of smoke grenades. Stims are good, but I think smokes are just much more useful, especially when it comes to endgame rotating and getting out of cover, things like that. I play Resurgence, so I'm always using throwing knives. But if you are not the ultra aggressive player or you play big map, probably sticky grenades, C4s, frag grenades, and then also thermites are all great options as well. And then when it comes to my perk package here, so they did revert and nerf that change to fall damage. For a moment there, Mountaineer was almost not needed because they made it where it was almost like you had Mountaineer to begin with, and then Mountaineer was even stronger than what it was. They reverted that, so Mountaineer being able to fall from greater heights without taking damage, very, very strong still. I've been going back and forth between sleight of hand and double time, but I kind of been liking sleight of hand. It depends on what gun you're using. Some guns have more of an advantage with sleight of hand. So you kind of have to just test that for yourself and see if it makes a big difference or not. I finally have became team quick fix over tempered. I think I love tempered, but I think quick fix is starting to save me. But like I said, don't forget about stalker. Also, if you're sniping, cold-blooded, extremely underrated. I run cold-blooded when I snipe. And then finally, perk 4, I'm going with high alert. It's just so strong. Combat Scout, Flex, they're very good as well, but high alert, it just saves me way too many times. Alrighty guys, that is gonna wrap things up. Don't forget to check out our website, ggs.ai. Subscribe, like, comment, do all the things. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.